My name is Lindsay, and I'm going to be talking to you about sexual determination amongst gender and how genes and hormones influence that. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about fertilization and the beginning of fetal development. So females produce eggs, which is the female gamete, and males produce sperm, which is the male gamete. And when they mate, those two gametes meet, and the sperm fertilizes the egg. Now, the sperm has one sex hormone, which you need two for normal development, and the egg has also one sex chromosome. They also have half the normal amount of chromosomes. That's why when they meet and if fertilization is a success, they now have the proper amount of sex chromosomes and chromosomes for human life. So it is totally random. We don't know what sex chromosome is in each sperm. It's totally random, so we could get male or female based off hormones and genes. So when fertilization occurs, that new cell with all of the required DNA in it and chromosomes is called a zygote. It's a single cell, so then the zygote actually goes through a replication process called meiosis, where basically just duplicates. So it duplicates into 2, then duplicates into 4, then duplicates into 8, then etc. until it becomes a embryo, basically. And at about week 8, the embryo is now considered a fetus until birth. And actually at approximately 7 weeks, so still an embryo, sexual differentiation actually begins to occur. And this sexual differentiation at week 7 is influenced by a number of things listed on the slide. So it's influenced by gonads, chromosomes, genetics, hormones, morphological and psychological characteristics as well. So we'll talk a little bit about all of these. Alright, so how do gonads influence gender? Well, first of all, a gonad is part of the male and female sex organs. The male and female sex organs are the gonads, the internal genitalia, and the external genitalia. Now, differentiation of the gonads is actually what determines the gender amongst male or female, and we'll get to that. So the gonads are what produces the gametes, sperm, and ovum, or eggs. And then the gonads of males are testes, and the gonads of females are ovaries. How they differentiate is because we have two different ducts. We'll talk a little bit about this more, but a signal influences the ducts to develop into the male gonad or the female gonad. So these gonads also have accessory glands that secrete different substances and hormones, and they have ducts that connect to the outside of the body. Internal genitalia differentiates into male or female gonads depending on the sex chromosome distribution, and also if the signal or the functional SRY gene is present. Right, so chromosomes influence on gender. So the normal female chromosome is an XX distribution, and the normal male chromosome distribution is XY. If you have just an abundance of X's, you're gonna end up getting female development genetically, and all you need is one Y to get male. The Y is really what determines male reproduction. The Y chromosome is actually what contains that SRY gene, and if there's no mutation in that SRY gene, you will get normal male genitalia. So normal chromosomal distribution is XX for female, but you can get just an X, so you're missing some type of sex chromosome. So she will develop into a female physically, but she won't be able to reproduce because two X chromosomes are vital for reproduction. However, in a male, XY is normal, but you can have only Y, and now Y typically will not survive because an X is needed for vital human functions. The X chromosome is larger, so if someone is born with only a Y, they won't survive. However, if you get another unequal distribution and the male becomes XXY, sometimes this can lead to ambiguous genitalia, meaning you can't really tell. It's potentially developed more as a male genitalia, potentially not developed enough as a male genitalia. So there's different instances that can occur here. So after fertilization, which, sorry, I realize it's spelled wrong in that diagram, we have either the XY or the XX gene in the zygote. If the functional SRY gene is there, the specific duct for the male in the gonad will differentiate to male, but without a functional SRY gene, or without an SRY gene in total, the gonads will differentiate into female reproductive structures. So this is an overview of just the gonadal and chromosomal influence on sexual differentiation and a little bit extra information. So primary sexual characteristics are directly influenced by the gonads and the chromosomes. If you have male gonads, you're going to make specific hormones that are going to give you male characteristics. If you have the female gonads, you're going to produce specific hormones to give you female-like characteristics. So the primary sexual characteristics are basically internal and external genitalia. They're the things that really genetically make you male or female. And now I mentioned we have a bipotential gonad, so that means that up till week approximately 7, we could be a male or female. Like I said, it depends on that SRY gene and its functionality. The SRY gene actually promotes the production of 3 specific hormones required for testicular gonadal differentiation, and those 3 hormones are DHT, testosterone, and androgens, which are testosterone, or include testosterone. And then the last one, blanking on this, is AMH, which is anti-Müllerian hormone, which we'll get to on the next slide or two here. So the 2 ducts that are involved are the Müllerian ducts and the Wolffian ducts. The Müllerian ducts, if the Müllerian ducts continue to develop, you'll get a female genitalia. If the Wolffian ducts continue to develop, you'll get a male genitalia. Genetic influence on gender. I guess this is maybe taking a little bit of a step back again to the chromosomal perspective, but this is important. So defects on sex chromosomes can genetically influence sexual determination as well. So if there's a defect on the Y chromosome, like the SRY gene, if it's non-functional, you're going to get that ambiguous genitalia again. And you could get a defect on a different chromosome that affects endocrine secretions, so it can lead to hormonal excess or deficiency of one of the hormones, which can lead to masculine traits in a female or feminine traits in males, despite normal sexual chromosome distribution. Also, it's important to note that males only have one X chromosome, and a lot of genetic diseases are linked to the X chromosome. Since males only have one X chromosome, if it's mutated in any way, they're going to have that mutation, which in females, they have a little bit of an advantage here because they have 2 X chromosomes. All they need is one dominant allele from the male, or the mom or the dad rather, and they will not display the mutation. So this could definitely affect males along genetic influences or other influences as well. Mutations are recessive. That's why you only need one dominant allele to overcome the mutation. Alright, so hormonal influence on gender. So the SRY gene initiates the 3 hormones that I talked about. So AMH, or anti-Müllerian hormone, this causes the regression of the Müllerian ducts during fetal development, so the Wolffian ducts can take over to develop into the male internal and external genitalia. The androgens, which the most dominant form in males is testosterone, converts those Wolffian ducts into the male accessory structures, and these are secreted by the adrenal cortex and the testes. Females actually do have a little bit of testosterone secreted by the ovaries, just a tad, and then also in the adrenal cortex. And then DHT is dihydrotestosterone, which controls male external genitalia and prostate development. I guess another thing about testosterone actually is it helps distend the scrotal sac away from the core of males to help keep the sperm and the gametes at a comfortable temperature to thrive. Now, the absence of this SRY gene, or if it's non-functional in general, the Müllerian ducts will develop. Specifically, testosterone and AMH. If those are not found in the gonads, the Müllerian ducts will develop. So testosterone and AMH are really the two huge hormones that influence the Wolffian ducts to develop. Morphological and psychological effects on gender. So these are also influenced by hormones again. So secondary sex characteristics now are physical and psychological traits that differentiate between males and females. So the specific hormones that influence morphological, meaning like body shape, and psychological, meaning behavior and mood, those are influenced by androgens and estrogens. Males have a lot of androgens, females not so much. Females have a lot of estrogens, males not so much. So these, depending on the distribution of these two specific hormones secreted by the gonads, really influence these different secondary sexual characteristics as well. So examples of these are body shape. So males have broad shoulders, you know, and kind of narrow waists, and then females are more hourglass shape. Muscularity. So males are able to put on more muscle easier than females, just basically due to testosterone. And then hair growth on the face and under your arms, that's due to testosterone. So if females have an excessive amount of testosterone, they can be extra muscular, they can have excessive hair growth in places that are unwanted for females, a deeper voice, increased sex drive or libido, and increased aggressive behavior. A lot of those things are really due to testosterone levels. Alright, so I covered androgens. I guess androgens are really the ones that are responsible for those manly traits. And then estrogens control breast development and body fat distribution. So going back to the sexual chromosome distribution, if a male was XXY, ambiguous genitalia, meaning a lot of times there is breast development despite a male external genitalia. So genes and hormones really do have a huge influence on sexual determination, and that's really why we're more open today in the world of allowing gender identity, or people to choose their own gender, basically identifying what they believe they are, because of an influence on so many different things, where traditionally gender was merely based on whether you had female or male genitalia. And if you had a mix of two, you were considered abnormal. You weren't able to pick and choose your gender based on how you really feel deep down. So that's an awesome thing for today's society and science. Alright, so to conclude, here is my references, and thank you very much.